All right, we're going to be recording today's session, so welcome. Thank you for being here. I am Megan. I am the Outreach and Training Coordinator here at Journey Center for Safety and Healing. I know that you all were probably expecting to see Vicki. She is actually in a trial right now, so she is doing the work that we're going to be talking about. I am also, as backup, joined by Tim Benedict. So he is the community response coordinator at the Canopy Child Advocacy Center. And so he works with the children and families that are affected by domestic violence and helps them work that multidisciplinary partnership. Tim, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself or say hi, or you can stay on the back, and then if anyone has any questions, you can just chime in. So welcome. For those of you, I know I see some familiar names and some new names. So we are Journey Center for Safety and Healing, formerly Domestic Violence and Child Advocacy Center. So we work with folks who've experienced domestic violence or child abuse at any point in their lifetime. And what that means is we really want people to know that they deserve to be safe and healthy in their relationships. Regardless of if someone is still in an abusive relationship, they have been out of the relationship for a while, it does not matter. We will work with you to guide what you want and what that victim wants. So today we're going to be talking about services at Canopy Child Advocacy Center. And so what that means is we work with Canopy. And so Canopy is now their own 501c3. And so I would love to know how many of you all were aware until I just said it now that Canopy is now their own separate nonprofit and Journey Center is a community partner. All right, it looks like we're about 50-50. Yes, some no. Oh, mostly no. Okay. Well, great. Well, now you know. So the reason that Journey Center went through a name change and is no longer Domestic Violence and Child Advocacy Center is because Canopy Child Advocacy Center now exists. And they work with young folks, and we'll talk about it, but their mission is to provide service to serve children and families affected by child abuse through a multidisciplinary partnership focused on safety, healing, and well-being. Similarly, they envision a community where children are safe, families are resilient, and those affected by child abuse are empowered to heal and thrive. So the name change, the partnership, the working together is still there, but it's a step forward in the work that we're doing, all of us, to help children who've experienced child abuse become safe, right, and heal and thrive in the trauma. So I will fully admit, if there is a question that I do not know, or an answer I don't have for you all, I will follow up. Or like I said, Tim's here to kind of back me up because I'm your surprise guest host. So kind of looking back at Canopy Child Advocacy Center. So way back in 2014, United Way awarded money to then DVCAC to provide structure to kind of develop that CAC. I'm sure you all, especially those of you who are in the social service field and working with clients, know that Cleveland and the Cleveland metropolitan area was one of the last large cities to have a child advocacy center. So it's really good. In 2018, so a few years later, a memorandum of understanding was executed. And so we started construction on a build out to have space for children to come, for interviews to be conducted. And they began meeting as a multidisciplinary team regularly to kind of talk about what Canopy would look like. I'm looking at this backwards. So that was really great. In between there, you can see in 2015 and 2017, the advisory committee began, formed, partners determined what was best. And then in 2019, the construction was completed, right? Operation began, and they began to serve clients and began to serve youths on their own. So what to know about Canopy and the Child Advocacy Center is nearly 700,000 children are abused in the US each year. Nationwide, CACs serve more than 370,000 kids in a year. So I previously said this, but prior to Canopy, for decades, Cleve was the largest city in Ohio and the country without a center to serve victims of child sexual abuse and their families. So this is a really important thing to help serve our community and make our community safer. In 2019, Canopy served nearly 700 kids through Cuyahoga County. Looking at numbers, last year, the number of new clients was 478. And if you look, you can see those breakdown in ages there. So what we're going to be talking about today, so Canopy serves all of these things, right? There's a whole bunch of community partners. There's a whole bunch of people working in the best interest of kids. So there's child protection services, children family services, there's forensic interviewing, law enforcement is involved, medical examinations, as well as prosecution. What we do at Journey Center as a community partner is we really focus on that victim advocacy and the mental health through our trauma therapy services. And so it's kind of what we're going to be talking about. So our Justice System Advocacy Program is where Canopy Child Advocacy Center's advocates are based out of. This is the work that they do. This is the department that they're in. So they work within 9 courts covering 42 municipalities throughout Cuyahoga County. In addition, we also have advocates domestic relations court, and we have 2 advocates that are dedicated to the children and the families that are experiencing sexual abuse and are going through this process. What happens regardless of where our advocates are at is they're going to speak with each victim, with each family about their unique experience, situation, what to expect, and really talking through all options. What does the court process look like? What does a forensic interview even mean? And really coming from a lens of safety, empowerment, and self-determination. We are never going to tell a victim or a family what to do. We're never going to say you have to press charges, you have to follow through. What we're going to say is this is what might happen, this is what it could look like, and how do we keep you safe in whatever decision it is that you make. So specifically looking at our Canopy Child Advocacy, Canopy, I'm gonna have to learn to say it, our CAC advocacy a little bit better, right? Providing service to families that are impacted by childhood sexual abuse. So these are really tough situations, really tough stories to hear, and we recognize that. So having that advocate that can help guide through all those processes is really helpful for the young folks and for their family. So we're providing education and support about what the investigation process looks like, what in the judicial system, right, in the criminal justice system, with the medical system, and with children and family services, with child protective services. We're going to be attending those forensic interviews to observe children's disclosure of sexual abuse, kind of look at what that child and that family might need to help them on their journey to safety and healing. See what I did there? And then also attend scheduled staff meetings, that multidisciplinary team, to really ensure families and then everyone involved in that case knows the latest updates, what's happening with the family, where the case is at, where it is in the system, to again make sure that we minimize the trauma to that child and that family as much as possible. Journey Center provides trauma therapy services, so individual therapy. So what that looks like is 4 and up. We can provide services. Our therapy services and our advocacy services are completely free, but we have our therapists really understand the impact of abuse and that trauma. So it's really important, right? We have a dedicated therapist who works with the Defending Childhood Initiative. So that countywide initiative focused on reducing and eliminating childhood exposure to violence. So Jen is our therapist, and she works with, in her words, she works with the kiddos to really help them navigate that trauma. The difference between Canopy therapy and our trauma therapy department as a whole is that Canopy therapy is going to be a little bit shorter term. It's going to be a little bit more crisis focused. It's going to be a little bit more immediate need, and then assessing from there and going on to, okay, do you need to be referred to one of our therapists? Do you need to be referred to Cleveland Rape Crisis Center? Is there someplace else that can help navigate and look at this more long-term? So that's really the only difference. But really the focus of the therapy at Canopy is that screening, assessment, and treatment. So again, that triaging of what is this child and what does this family need, and how can we help support them through that investigation and through that process. And like I said, feel free to put any questions in the chat. I will do my best to answer. And so we talked about kind of what Journey does and what we do, but what does a child advocacy center do, right? The main focus and purpose of a child advocacy center is that it is a singular place. It is a place where a child can come and share their story once and have the prosecutor, law enforcement, advocacy, domestic or DCFS, all of those people we mentioned in that kind of circular slide, and they can all hear that story during the forensic interview. So that child is sharing their story and telling their story once or as few times as possible, so they don't have to keep reliving that trauma. Not only that, but now all of those systems and arms of the system are working together, right? So it's not, we're over here as advocates doing one thing and then law enforcement is doing another thing, and they're not really sure what's going on with the DCFS. But again, being able to provide those services packaged to help that child and that family's receive the best services possible, right? So it's that multidisciplinary approach to share information, to develop effective, coordinated strategies. Again, law enforcement, child protective services, prosecution, advocacy, medical, and mental health professionals are all working together in one singular place. So what does Journey do? We talked about this, but really our part in this multidisciplinary team is that justice and advocacy and the CAC advocates and that court preparation. So what that might look like is, so I think back to my days as a teen advocate. So I was working with high schoolers, middle schoolers, college students, and I was their advocate, right? And what that meant is I was there to listen to that youth, that young person, and navigate and hear them. Because I think a lot of times, and it's going to be age dependent on what those services look like and what those conversations look like. A conversation between a 12-year-old is going to look really different than a conversation with a 4-year-old, right? But we're going to offer that victim, that child support throughout the investigation. We're going to conduct case tracking to monitor the case project. So when's the pretrial? When's the pretrial sentencing? When's the whatever? What's a trial? What does it mean if it's a jury trial? What does it mean if, they switch attorneys or whatever it is? The court system is complicated. I used to tell my clients all the time that I would be more concerned if you knew exactly how the court system worked. Like, I am not concerned about you answering and asking all of these questions. Like, that's my job. That's what I'm here for. So our job is to keep that victim, keep that family connected so they know what's going on with the court. They know what's going on with DCFS. And we're sort of that, I don't say like mediator, that's the wrong word, but we're that middle, right? Advocacy support includes legal, medical, and social services. So if there is a follow-up medical appointment, we can go with them. We can talk to the family about that. If there is a follow-up DCFS hearing, we can help and work with that family through that process. Our role as advocates, as CAC advocates, is to ensure the rights of the child and family are upheld. Sometimes that means that we're the bad guys and we're pushing back against prosecutors or defense attorneys, whoever that is, because our concern is that child. Our concern is that family and making sure that they are heard and that they feel seen, right? Our mental health services, so offering those mental health services for victims and their families, collaborating with health providers, and then really looking at the children can receive services in a location that's convenient for them. So this is another thing that's really specific to the CAC, is that we can go to the home, the community, or the school and work with that child and work with that victim to disrupt their day as little as possible. So maybe they have a little bit more, I guess, as much as possible normalcy in this really terrible time, right? In this really confusing and traumatic situation. What we don't do, but what the CAC does is, so we work with the prosecutor's office. So the prosecutor's office, right, is going to work with victims, witnesses, law enforcement, and their role is to seek justice against the perpetrators, right? So their goal is to seek justice for that child that experienced this trauma, that experiences sexual abuse, through the justice system and through that legal system. Law enforcement's role is to determine if a crime has been committed, right? I say all of the time, as an advocate, it is not my job to investigate. My job to support that victim. So let DCFS investigate, let law enforcement investigate. That is not our role. That is not my role. That is what law enforcement is here to do. So they're going to use the child interviews and witness statements to gather details, and then they're going to send that evidence up to the prosecutor's office and up to that next step. Their objective, both prosecutors and law enforcement, is to identify perpetrators and bring them to justice. That's it. That's their main objective, is looking for justice and seeking justice for that child and for that family. Additionally, a child advocacy center is going to provide those medical exams. So coordinating those medical exams. So when necessary, they're going to assure that the child receives appropriate medical attention. That's through pediatricians, through STAIN nurses, as needed and as necessary. So medical professionals are going to share what they find, right, with those prosecutors, with law enforcement, with the advocate, to again help guide that case and work together. And then Child Protective Services, right, DCFS. So they're the ones that are receiving the calls. They're the ones that are receiving the referrals and then pushing it through. So they're going to assign caseworkers. They're the folks that are usually doing the forensic interviews. They're connecting to for immediate service. And they're working both custody and non-custody cases. And so it's important. So they have a really important role, right? So that forensic interview is a really vital step in this process. And so what that means, so these are neutral, non-biased interviews that are aimed at really gathering as much information from the child in a developmentally appropriate manner. And so a forensic interview, like I said, for a 4-year-old is going to look different than a forensic interview might look for a 10, 11, 12-year-old. But that's their role, and those folks that are doing those forensic interviews have really been trained to do that job well, right? So the interview is recorded, it's shared with the MDT partners, that multidisciplinary team, to reduce the number of times the child has to tell their story, right? And what happens when we're reducing the number of times that child has to share their story with Joe and then Jill and then Bob and then Vicky and then is it's reducing that trauma. And when they are talking about their story, they're talking about it with an advocate, with a therapist who's able to help that child and that victim and that family process that trauma. And like I said, that's really the goal of the CAC, is minimize trauma and help these kiddos. And so much easier and more visually appealing than what I just talked about. This is what it looks like without a CAC, right? So we're here and we're here and we're here and we're there, and then you got it, and then. That CAC is all focusing and working together. So a lot of times that referral process, right? We get asked all the time, what is the referral process and how do we refer someone? So right now, the referral process and all clients are referred through Children and Family Services, right? If a case meets, and then sometimes law enforcement, but if a case meets that criteria, Canopy is going to receive that referral directly from DCFS and law enforcement. Right now, what that criteria is the child must be 12 years or younger. There are allegations of sexual abuse and human trafficking. Now, there is an exception for trafficking for 18 years and under, right? But these are the current cities that we are working with. So these are the cities that, I'm not going to read this whole list. No one wants to hear me just like read lists, but those are the police departments and cities that the Canopy CAC has referral process through. This is always expanding. The goal is, right, to continue to grow and to continue to increase age, increase cities. But what the thought process behind this is, we want to be mindful, right? We don't want to start taking everyone. We want to be able that we have the infrastructure, the things in place to make sure that all of those kiddos who are getting services are getting them appropriately and effectively. And then as we continue to grow and as Canopy continues to grow, those criteria are going to continue to expand. Intakes are done through Frontline Service, so they are another community partner. So they're going to do that initial assessment to determine a level of need. Then they are going to refer to those advocacy, right, and therapy services, Journey, as well as Cleveland Rape Crisis Center. And then really looking at and targeting what kind of therapy and what kind of services that child and that family need. And you can see that whole list there that is above my skill set. But those are what our therapists are working with and doing to help children. And so we've got just a little bit of time left, and I know that these are questions, so please enter those questions in the chat that you have, and we will be happy to answer them. And like I said, if I don't know, I will find out and I can follow up in my follow-up email. But one question we get a lot is, does Journey offer legal services? And so the answer to that is no. We are not attorneys. We are not lawyers. We offer advocacy services. Now, we work with and we have a list of attorneys that we can refer to, that we know, that we trust, that understand and know how to work with folks who've been impacted by domestic violence and child abuse, but we are not attorneys, we are advocates. And so that's a really important distinction to make. I said that all the time, I'm not an attorney, but how do you make a referral? So right now, if you are a case manager, you are not making that referral, but maybe making that report to DCFS, calling law enforcement, and then they are the ones that can make that referral to Canopy. What services are in place for families? So right now we're referring to partners. So we're referring to Frontline, we're referring to Journey, we're referring to CRCC, and really identifying those needs. I can't give you all a list because it's going to depend on each family. If a family is not safe at home anymore, then maybe that's a referral to our Domestic Violence Housing First initiative. If a family is not experiencing maybe domestic violence, but still needs shelter, that's a referral to coordinated intake. So it's going to, again, depend on the needs of that child and the needs of that family. Is there cost for services? No, right? Absolutely not. All of the services through Canopy and through us are completely free. And then what hours is Canopy open? So right now, the hours of operation through Canopy are Monday and Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. You do not have to remember that all. In my follow-up email, I will send you all the information for Canopy and their website so you can follow up with them as well. And then partners, right? These are all of the partners that make Canopy work, that make Canopy possible, right? CRCC, us, Kiowa County, Frontline, Domestic Relations Court, Juvenile Court, the Sheriff's Office is there, Cleveland Police, United Way, and you will see all three of the big hospitals, if you will, UH, Cleveland Clinic, and Metro Health are all on board and are all partners to, again, ensure the safety of children. So we've got about 5 minutes left. Tim, did I miss anything? Is there anything that you would like to add or include that I didn't say? All right, I'm gonna take the silence as a no, which is great. So thank you. Like I said, put things in the chat. I will be sending a follow-up email to let folks know kind of the recording of this and any information I can include if you have it. It is still Child Abuse Prevention Month. Right now, we are in our week of action. So if you have not left a message of support for a young person who has experienced a child abuse, respond to my email. You can head to our social media and add that message of support. I hope you all wore blue yesterday to promote prevention. Tomorrow is Philanthropy Friday, so donate $20, donate $10. And also it's Saturday is Speak Up Saturday. So really encouraging folks, have a conversation with someone about Canopy, have a conversation with someone of, hey, did you know that Canopy is its own nonprofit and DVCAC is now Journey Center? Isn't it great that services for kids is expanding? Now, hey, let me ask you, what would you do if you witnessed child abuse, right? I know these conversations are awkward, but they are so, so important. Hope you'll come back and join us. You will not be hearing from me. I will be backup support. But next week, you are going to be hearing from Rena for Safe and Sound Supervised Visitation Manager. And the following week is our trauma therapy services. And that's going to be Sam, who's an amazing therapist. She's been with us for quite a while. We have 2 trainings. We have a training tomorrow, Child Abuse Know the Signs, And we have a training on the 29th, Child Abuse, Know How to Respond. So come to those, they are free. Registration is required. Join us on social media. Let's Talk Tuesday, where we're doing fun polls and really facilitating those conversations. And then again, our toolkit. I know there's some faces that were on here last week. If you do not already, scan that little fun QR code, follow us on social media, sign up for our newsletter. And thank you again. Thanks, Natalie. Always good to see you. And that's it. That's all I'll have. I'll stay on for another minute if folks have any questions. Thanks, Tim, for helping out. And that's it. Have a great day. Enjoy the sunshine, right? If I say it, it has to stick around. So thanks, everybody.